While I fully expected to be writing videos about Metroid news this year, the news coming out of Metroid Prime Federation Force was not on my bingo card. But here we are. I suppose I should head this off with a spoiler warning for Metroid Prime Federation Force, but at this point I suspect you're not too worried about that. I'm John Reardon, you're watching NWR TV. Let's take a fresh look at Metroid Prime's favorite fella, Sylux. At the end of Metroid Prime Federation Force, we see a cutscene in which an unknown person sneaks into a Federation base to steal a newly hatched Metroid. The camera pans out, and we get a glimpse of a shoulder with a strong resemblance to Sylux, which was eventually confirmed by the game's developers. Longtime Metroid Prime series fans will recognize Sylux from his initial appearance in Metroid Prime Hunters, along with another ending cutscene found in Metroid Prime 3. But if you're familiar with Federation Force, you already knew all of this. What you might not know is that just a few days ago, Wikitroid user Bearborg actually managed to reposition the in-game camera during that ending cutscene, and it turns out there's a lot more to Sylux than just an arm and a shoulder. What you're looking at here is the full character model for Sylux in Metroid Prime Federation Force. He's obviously rendered in much the same style as other humans seen in the game, but it is important to note that this is at least a somewhat unique model. Of course, you'll also notice that outside of the pointy shoulders and the color of his suit, he looks very different from the last time we saw him, even accounting for the art style. So what's up with Sylux's new look? We should note that since we never see his full body in the actual game, it's possible that this version of Sylux was never intended to be seen. In fact, the model used for Sylux appears to be a modified version of the technician model who helps customize your mech in the game. Because you generally only see that character model from behind as you're going through mech customization, you may not immediately recognize it, but just after the tutorial, you do catch a glimpse of this character head on. The color palette has been changed, and a portion of the shoulders pulled out to create something more in line with Sylux's previous appearances. I've reached out to some of the developers on Federation Force to see if I could get any clarity on this, but the developers who could answer this question are all still working at Next Level Games and are therefore likely prohibited from answering. However, even without a firm answer, we can still pursue the hypothetical possibility of this being a legitimate, intentionally designed version of Sylux. It is, after all, possible that at one point the camera was intended to see more of him. This would make sense, as oftentimes if a game presents a first-person perspective, as we see in this ending cutscene, the only part of the character that exists are their arms. We can actually see this in Metroid Prime itself, where Samus is just floating arms when you're in first-person mode. So the use of a full model could certainly suggest that he was intended to be seen in his entirety at one point. But why does he look so different if they really did ever intend to show the full model? Well, we can actually explain some of that with existing lore. Canonically, Sylux's armor, weapon, and even his ship are stolen Federation prototypes, likely intended to mimic the Chozo armor worn by Samus herself, maybe even a predecessor to Project Golem. So with that in mind, the worst way to sneak into a Federation base would be while wearing unique prototype gear that went missing a few years back. Now, granted, Sylux's appearance is still unique. He loves pointy shoulders, but it looks much more in line with the Federation troops around him. Without his armor, we also get a further look at his clear physical similarity to humans, potentially lending credence to the theory that Sylux himself is a human. The question then is, could this design factor into Metroid Prime 4? Will Samus meet a very human Sylux? Maybe even find out what's beneath the mask? We'll have to wait and see, but hopefully not for too much longer. Thank you for watching, and if you'd like to hear more of Sylux's backstory and my personal theories on who he is, check out my video entitled Metroid: The History of Sylux. Also, sorry in advance for saying Samus as Samus. The comment section was not happy with me. I blame Super Smash Bros.
Samus!
But if you enjoyed this video, consider subscribing and checking out NintendoWorldReport.com for a whole lot more. You can join our Discord to chat about this or anything else Nintendo related by using the link in the description. Once again, my name's John Reardon, and I will see you next time. This video was made possible by our generous supporters on Patreon.
Did you know that Nintendo World Report is funded directly by fans like you? When you support Nintendo World Report on Patreon, you get immediate access to multiple exclusive podcasts every month, exclusive Discord channels, an early look at select content, and more, all for as little as $1 a month. Check out patreon.com/NWR for all the details.